going to go through each tactic and I'm going to, in very, very simple terms, explain how each Premier League club plays both offensively and defensively. Now, I'm making this for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, my channel members decided that they wanted to see this video, so shout out to you guys. I'm making this video thanks to you, and I also thought it was a really good idea because, you know, tactics can get very, very complicated for the average person, you know, and I'll admit, even before this video, I had to do tons of research because I realised that when I was looking at teams, you know, some of the tactics they employed, I just couldn't keep up with it. You know, this inverted fullback stuff, this mid blocks, stuff like this is just like very, very complicated. So, in this video, I'm going to explain every team's tactics in very simple, basic terms for you to hopefully understand very clearly. Even if, you know, you have very limited football tactical knowledge, you should be able to understand this and follow along, hopefully, in this video. And if not, at the very least, we'll find it relaxing. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through each team. As I said, I'll explain how they work. Now, I am going to probably split this up into two parts. So in this first part, I'm going to do the first 10 teams. And then I think we'll do a part 2 where we'll look at the next 10 teams in the league, just because, you know, I'm spending about 10 minutes on each one. Do that 20 times, you know, that's a long video. So if you want to see the part 2, then please do leave a like and comment below, and I'll try to get the part 2 out as soon as possible. But yeah, I'm not proclaiming to be like a tactical expert. I've done plenty of research on how the teams play, but of course, if you think that, you know, maybe some of my stuff is a bit wrong, then please do correct me. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Anyways, hopefully you guys do enjoy this video, find it relaxing and insightful to learn a little bit about football tactics and how Premier League teams play. And hopefully, if you do enjoy, we can maybe do this about some of the bigger sides across Europe as well. But let's get into it. So I should also say that the teams we'll cover in this video will be as follows. So we'll do Arsenal, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Everton, Fulham and Ipswich. Those are the 10 covered in this video. The other 10 will be covered in the next video, so make sure you have your notifications turned on so you know when part 2 drops. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first set of tactics. So the first team up is Bournemouth. So Bournemouth are in our red here. Now Bournemouth are a little bit different because with most teams, you know, I'm going to talk about their attacking and defensive shape, but, you know, they're not necessarily linked too much together. With Bournemouth, their attacking shape and how they create chances is directly linked to their defensive shape. Their defensive shape is actually the more interesting thing and is how they create a lot of their chances. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, Bournemouth are actually one of the best teams in the league when it comes to pressing and winning balls high up the pitch. They rank in terms of like turnovers leading to goals, some of the highest numbers in the league, blocked passes, etc. Those sorts of numbers. Bournemouth are some of the best in the league at this. The reason is because of their mid block and their pressing. Now, by the way, just as a disclaimer, so a bit of terminology here. When I say mid block, is something I'm going to say quite a bit in this video. If you aren't unaware of what I mean by this, so basically, that's a horrible line, but yeah, ignore the wonky lines. But look, imagine the pitch is split up into 3, 1, 2, 3. If most of your players are in this zone here, we call this a low block because most of your players are in this lower half of the pitch. If you're Bournemouth, if you're in this area here, most of your players, then we call this the mid block, where you're sort of in the middle of the pitch. And if you're in this area here, we don't call it a high block, this video, which I'm going to use. Anyways, so how do Bournemouth set up? So defensively, when they go into this mid-block, so normally they're in a 4-2-3-1, but when they press or defend, they tend to go for a 4-1-4-1. So they'll push up a little bit like this, drag these guys up. Lewis Cook will sit a little bit deeper. Ryan Christie will join the number 10 into the 2-10 roles, and it will be something like this. So that's sort of what they'll look like defensively. And the reason they do this is because Ryan Christie in particular, now he's naturally a bit more of a attacking minded player, but his pressing is really good. So he likes to go forward and press from the front, whereas Lewis Cook is extremely good at reading the game and mopping up play. So Lewis Cook sits a bit deeper because his intercepting is really good, and that's why his sort of interception numbers are some of the highest in the league. Now, Bournemouth don't necessarily press from the front straight away in a high press. Let's say the ball is with the goalkeeper, it's a goal kick. Bournemouth, as I said, will go into a bit of a mid-block and wait for their moments. So actually be a little bit deeper here, drop them back slightly, and they'll allow the team to pass the ball out. However, Bournemouth are extremely good at waiting for their moments, and as soon as the ball, they're fine, they're comfortable with the ball being played here. As soon as the ball gets played here, that's when Bournemouth engage, and Bournemouth are so good at this because they are extremely good at jumping. Bournemouth will shuffle over, put a little bit of pressure on, not too much. Semenyo in this position would go to the ball slightly, but just enough to sort of off-put the defender, and then the defender makes a little bit of a error, maybe a little bit of a heavy touch. Suddenly Bournemouth go, and Bournemouth are so good at this. It's brave, it's bold, but Bournemouth, again, as I said, are one of the best when it comes to winning the ball high up the pitch, because they know when to pounce. When the ball gets into these positions, they go. They're brave. Sometimes, of course, it doesn't work. Sometimes, you do this. There is a hole left here in behind, right? This guy's pressing here, this guy's pressing here. Suddenly this guy can drop in there, pass there. Let's say pass gets played there, Lewis Cook follows. Again, leaving massive gaps. Again, it's bold, it's risky, but it's high risk, high reward, because if you do win it back in this situation here, suddenly you got 1, you got 2, you got 3, you got 4 players up against in this area here, and this is how Bournemouth create a lot of their chances. And another thing they do very well is it's the whole team. If one person jumps, it's the trigger. So if the team is here just passing the ball around, Evan Nielsen, the striker, whoever it is, jumps, that's the trigger. Everyone go. Lewis Cook steps up, and also the centre backs are extremely aggressive. You will actually see a lot of the time when you watch Bournemouth centre backs get dragged into these positions. They are more than willing to say, okay, you get the number 9. Let's say ball's here. Ball's here. Let's say he's pressing him. He's going. They're more than comfortable to say, okay, one of the centre backs go up and press it like this. They are happy to do that. Again, it is extremely risky because, of course, you're leaving gaps like this, but it is why Bournemouth create so many chances. So that's really Bournemouth out of possession in terms of how they press. They are just so good at jumping, waiting, and then as soon as they see their moment, they'll smother you. They'll absolutely smother you. Now, in terms of how they play with the ball, as I said, most of their chances are actually created through that. So that is sort of a tactic in itself in terms of creating chances for them. But let's get these guys back in shape here. So when they actually have the ball, Bournemouth will use the 4-2-3-1 system, but Bournemouth sell up. They primarily focus on the width. They focus on the wide areas here, and they try and get overloads. And they really do this because they recognise, Iriola recognises that they have some really good, fast, direct wingers who are good in these 1v1 situations. So they try and isolate those players, get those overloads on the wide areas, and most of their goals actually come from the wide areas, crossing it in, and then the striker tapping the ball into the box. So their fullbacks will get high and wide. They will overlap when necessary. Cliver as well is why he plays number 10, because he likes to drift out into those wide areas and create those overloads. You get these 3v2 situations out wide. That's really what they do. And another thing which I really respect as well from Bournemouth is, interestingly, they don't always play it short. They don't always play that ball short. They will pass it around. They always tend to, from goal kicks, pass it and go short. But then, if they see the opportunity, Bournemouth will send it long into the striker. And Dominic Solanke, when he was at Bournemouth, was extremely good at this because his hold-up play was absolutely terrific. He could pin a defender, hold that ball up, and lay it off and get Bournemouth high up the pitch. And they are, again, ranked very high in terms of long balls, etc. in the Premier League, which is something I really respect because not a lot of clubs do this. And that is why they've signed Evan Nilsson, because as a profile, he's very strong, very physical. He can hold up that play. And this is again where also their out of possession stuff links to how they play with the ball, because Bournemouth are comfortable playing that long ball because they know, okay, even if this guy loses it and they get the ball, we are so good at pressing and being in our shape that we're comfortable with them having the ball here because we know we are capable of winning that ball up that pitch anyway. So they are more than happy to go long, Bournemouth. And yeah, that's really Bournemouth. The main areas to know of Bournemouth then are focus is out wide, getting overloads in the wide situations when they have the ball. They will also go long into the striker from the centre backs or from the midfielders. And defensively, they are extremely good in a mid block in terms of pressing and defending like this. They will win the ball back, and they are very, very good in terms of jumping and pressing. They'll move around. When they see the opportunity to press, they go, and they will hunt you down like a pack of wolves. So that's Bournemouth's tactics. So we have Arsenal up next. Now with Arsenal, I feel like a lot of these big teams, especially Arsenal, most people are kind of aware, have a basic understanding of how Arsenal play, because of course it is spoken about a lot. So I'm not going to necessarily talk about the basics with them, but what I am going to talk about is some sort of finer details which maybe people don't pick up on with the way Arsenal play, because it is really interesting. Now, as I said, people have a basic idea of how Arsenal play in terms of, I think it's pretty well known that they invert a fullback. The left back, I've just put Timber in for argument's sake here, will invert into the midfield, pushing up Rice or whoever is in this position. Again, the personnel right now isn't necessarily a big thing. So yeah, Timber and Partey will go this, like that. Gabriel goes a little bit wider, Sleeper like that. It's kind of like a back three, although Ben White does push on a little bit more. And I should probably explain, because a lot of clubs, as we'll find in this video, do invert a fullback. I think I'll just explain it now, why teams do that, get it out the way, and then I'm not going to explain it in the other say you lose a ball, this guy has the ball here. You have two players here who can provide a stable base to shut that down and keep you solid. So that's why teams invert a fullback, but that's not really my focus here. My focus with Arsenal here is more so about how they get their key individuals into the best positions. I feel like a lot of how Arsenal play is geared towards nowadays getting those key players in 1v1 situations and in those maximum sort of capacities to thrive. So those two key individuals in particular, which I'm going to focus on, are Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. Now with Bukayo Saka, Arsenal really aim to get him in these positions here where he is in a 1v1 situation with his fullback and he's got space to run into where he can beat his man, because Bukayo Saka is capable of doing that and then get a shot off or beat his man and then get like a pass or a cross. Again, very good at that. So that's what they try and do with Bukayo Saka, and with Martin Odegaard they try and get him in these sorts of areas with nobody really in that area, maybe around there, because this is where he operates best, in this zone, because his passing range is so good. He is capable of making a pass easily through there to break down a defence if you give him time and you give him space. So how do Arsenal with their system get Odegaard in those positions and get Saka in these positions in those 1v1 situations? Well, it's actually to do with Ben White. It's actually to do with Ben White because he makes some really interesting movements for a fullback. So Ben White, of course, does overlap Saka. We see it plenty of times. If you're overlapping, going behind Saka while Saka has a ball, let's say Saka has a ball here, Ben White will make this run behind, forcing the winger to drag him. And if he doesn't drag him, then you've got a 2v1 situation where the fullback is like, okay, do I pass? Do I go mark him? Do I stay on Saka? What do I do? But most of the time, the winger will just drag, and yeah, that's dealt with. But what Ben White does very, very effectively, which is something I've noticed in the last couple games this season, is he'll actually make a from out to in run, like into this area here. And what this does is it just causes a lot of confusion. So let's say Thomas Partey has the ball over here. You know, this team is in there, let's say like this, 4-4-2, whatever. Sure. Yeah, Arsenal set up like this, right? They're like this, everyone's pretty much marked. Partey has the ball. What White will do is he'll make this run over into here, dragging the winger with him. This is really not where a winger wants to be. A winger does not want to be here at all. Their defence is not good enough for this position. Allowing this space for Bukayo Saka, who plays extremely, extremely wide. That is one thing Arsenal do very well. Their wingers are extremely wide, so he can pass that ball into Saka. Saka has the ball now. This person is dragged out here. Odegaard occupies this space here as well. So this man is taken up. There is space here to operate. So Odegaard, if he wants to, can drop in there, drop in like that. But what actually happens is it goes like that, and then Saka is in a 1v1 situation. As we mentioned before, this is the situation which Saka wants to be in. Now the centre back can come in and help. He can say, okay, I'm going to take Ben White, you go double up on Saka, like that. But then in that situation, that's not really ideal, because that means there is a spare man. Kai Havertz can come in there and go help out. So that's why Ben White causes so much confusion, because teams will usually be in this situation like this, where Bukayo Saka's here 1v1. He's capable of beating his man, getting down the line, where Kai Havertz and Declan Rice in particular make some really, really good runs, and we'll get on the end of those crosses. That's why you see Arsenal score a lot of sort of cutback goals, because situations, and then the defenders have to deal with this. The centre back cannot deal with these two, and Martinelli also on the other wing stays very, very wide. This is also why Martinelli is preferred and plays most games compared to Trossard, because Trossard can't do that but doesn't like to do it. And what Martinelli will do is he'll stay out wide and then slowly come in. So then when those crosses come in, Arsenal always have bodies in the box. They always have at least 3 players on the end of those crosses. Ben White can also kill him there as well. So that's really how Arsenal get the best out of their individuals. Of course, in this situation as well, you can give the ball to Odegaard, who, he will have a player here as well. But in this situation, as I said, there's a lot of space here. There's a lot of space vacated, and him and White almost, you'll see, kind of swap in-game positions. Like Odegaard might take up a bit of a right-back role, and Ben White will take up a bit more attacking mid role in this sort of pattern. And Odegaard will have time here, and he's very capable of just whipping a ball in there to a Havertz, to a Rice. And this is also particularly why Miguel Marino, I believe, has been signed, because Marino can play this role very effectively, where almost as like a second striker, this is his role really, to make those runs into the box, get on the end of those crosses from Odegaard and Saka. And yeah, that's really the main thing I wanted to highlight with Arsenal. As I said, I think everyone has a sort of basic understanding of how they play. But this is something I wanted to highlight, that really their system is geared towards Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard. They focus a lot of their play down the right hand side, and a lot of their goals come from cutbacks, and it's the same procedure on the left as well. Cutbacks into the box, and that's really why Arsenal are so effective, because they get their key individuals in those best positions to thrive. Aston Villa is up next now. So Aston Villa, one of the key things I've noticed from Aston Villa is actually one important player to their system, which you probably don't think, but is so key to how they play, and that is Super John McGinn. So Villa play in a 4-2-3-1 system, like a lot of clubs you'll see in this video. But John McGinn is actually key, because, as you might know, John McGinn is, he's a bit more of a central midfielder, but he's actually being deployed in a left mid role. However, his role is very, very specific and helps Villa in terms of attacking wise and defensively, in terms of creating space. So, if we imagine Villa in their first phase, so Villa have a goal kick, and this team, let's say, is pressing up high. This team is going, and they're going to employ a press. So how do Villa break a press as a team? Let's say like this, but she's up, drop him a little bit, and drop him a little bit, like this. So how do Villa break the high press? So one thing to note is Emi Martinez has really developed as a goalkeeper, so he does join in, and it sort of forms like a back three. The centre backs go wide like this when they have a goal kick, and the fullbacks will go high and wide. Maikash will try and push this winger back, and same with Digne, push this winger back. These two, Yuri Tielemans and Onana, will form a double pivot, so if they want to play through the middle they can. And then Morgan Rogers is the number 10, Ollie Watkins there. Leon Bailey again will hold width as well, with Matty Cash to stretch for play. So in this situation, you're probably thinking, okay, how are Villa getting out of this? Well, this is where John McGinn comes in, because John McGinn, as I said, is more of a central midfielder. So when Villa have possession, McGinn will not stay out wide like Bailey. McGinn will actually come inside into a central area and become a sort of double number 10 role here with Morgan Rogers, like this. And why this causes such an issue for teams is because suddenly the fullback here has a choice to make. Does he follow McGinn inside? But if he does this, he is leaving all of this space here, all of this, for someone to attack for the space and stay in this position. But then if he does this, then suddenly Villa, McGinn or Rodgers, Rodgers can slot in like this, and McGinn can just slot in here, pick up the ball through the middle, and suddenly, Villa have bypassed the press. So as you can see, that is where John McGinn causes a big issue. What happens most of the time the fullback does if they are trying to press Villa, follow them in, which allows for space, and this is why Digne, and this is actually why they've signed Ian Martson, I believe, because Ian Martson is somebody who can attack this space, and that is really the out ball, which you'll see a lot of the time. Villa love to push forward with Digne or whoever is the left back, because they'll play this ball. Pau Torres, for example, Yuri Tielemans are more than capable of getting the ball under pressure and clipping the ball in behind like this, and to get Villa out of pressure. Equally, let's say, it's not always Digne who does this. This is where Watkins' best attributes is. Watkins is very good at pinning a defender and spinning off into the channels. So Digne may not make that run, but Watkins will also run those channels, and Villa are not afraid, as I said, to go long and clip it in those channels into that space which McGinn creates and get out of that press. So that's how McGinn helps them in terms of that first phase and breaking the press. But what happens once Villa have broken the press and in that second phase? Well, let's push everyone back into their shape for a second. Villa really, they're primarily focused on pinning teams back. Villa's pressure with the ball is absolutely immaculate. They are one of the best, I think, in the league when it comes to pinning teams into their own half, and I'll show you why they do this so effectively. So let's just say team sets up like this, right? Sure. So in the 4-2-3-1 shape, push Gonza up, push Pau Torres up, push Digne up. Yeah, we'll say it's like this for now. Let me get this. Okay, so when Villa have the ball, let's say Pau Torres have the ball, they will go into primarily a back three system. So Matty Cash will stay, Pau Torres goes like this. There's a double pivot all the time with Yuri Tielemans and Onana providing a stable base for them, and they try and form the box midfield with McGinn doing the exact same thing, which is again why McGinn is so crucial, because he inverts, comes into this position here. Now suddenly, as you can see, Villa have the box midfield, the box being this. They have 4 midfielders here, outnumbering 3 players here. The only way the team can counteract this is if the striker drops in. So if the striker drops in like this, let's say like that, and they're covering these two, and these are covering those, like this. Again, this is where the fullback is caused so many problems, because McGinn inverts. So the fullback again has a decision: do you go in? Do you follow McGinn? Do you go into this position and follow him? If you do, again, you're leaving space here to be attacked. Or do you stay and then leave your midfielder to deal with McGinn? But then the problem with this, as we will see, is, so when this happens, Digne bombs forward. Let's say the fullback pushes on and follows John McGinn. Let's say he follows John McGinn. The left back will push in. Naturally, the winger has to take him. The winger has to take him. So McGinn, to be fair, McGinn more operates in this position here. So the winger follows the left back. Now suddenly, as you can see, Pau Torres has the ball, and then like this, everyone is marked pretty much. Let's say this man's free, so technically the striker can start to apply a bit of pressure on the ball, and he can press up like this, and it's probably like more so like that. As you can see, Bailey also holds very, very wide like this. Now, what can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The defensive team is pretty much forced now into a back 5 situation. Their winger is playing as a right back right now, meaning that they are pretty boxed in right now. So if Villa lose the ball So in this situation here, Pau Torres is extremely good on the ball. Pau Torres, you'll see for Villa, will push up and dribble with the ball because he now has all this space to run into. So Pau Torres will run into this space here, and he is capable of playing those passes into those boys. So yeah, Villa, attacking wise, it's really focused on pinning teams in, applying the pressure onto those teams, and John McGinn, as I said, is vital to that with his sort of inverted winger role. Defensively as well, Villa are very good in terms of pressing because they set up defensively in a 4-4-2 formation and they work extremely hard. Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins, again, this is where Ollie Watkins, one of his best strengths to this Villa side is they'll go into the mid block. John McGinn, again, as well, very crucial to the side because defensively he is very good. What they'll do is they'll go into this 4-4-2 shape, and Watkins and Rogers will go onto the double pivot, and this is where it causes teams a lot of problems because let's go like this. Let's say a team was inverting someone, sure, go like that, push him up like this, and like that, sure. Okay, let's say a team sort of sets up like this. Say a team sets up like this. This is how Villa counteracts it in a 4-4-2. So Watkins and Rogers will stick on this double pivot, meaning that the centre backs are the only two having the ball. The centre backs are the only two Villa are comfortable having the ball with, because obviously they, you know, from here they're not really going to hurt you, and they work very hard in this 4-4-2. Every man is covered. The centre backs are also aggressive, where, you know, if necessary, the ball comes into this position here, they are willing to step up and get that ball. But yeah, Rogers, the number 10, and Watkins in particular are very hard because, you know, if they just press like this and the ball goes into this man, suddenly this is where the dangerous position is in this pivot role. The double pivot, you get the ball to a double pivot, and suddenly teams can hurt you because they can play those balls. But Watkins and Rogers do very well in terms of screening these guys and just man marking them pretty much. So yeah, that's Villa. Main things to focus on is Super John McGinn is one of the keys to this. They like to pin teams in. They play very high, very wide. It is bold because sometimes they can get caught out on the counter attacks, but they are very good at pinning teams in to their own half. Let's talk about Brentford now. So Brentford are pretty interesting as a tactics because they sort of fluctuate, they change formation quite a bit, but the principles and the method always stays the same. So I've got them in a 5-back system, this time 5-3-2, because this is something which last season they predominantly have used in the Premier League throughout their time. This is the formation they've used. Now they do fluctuate now between their 4 at the back system as well, but as I said, the principles and the methods stay the same, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. So I'm aware as well, you know, some of the personnel may not be correct, but again, I'm just showing you how Brentford have played during their time in the Prem most often, and I'll show you how it's slightly adapted now as well. So, as I said, they play with a 5, a 3, and a 2 formation. One of the few teams who actually start off in a 5 at the back system. But one thing I think is a key sort of theme during this system is a self-awareness from Thomas Frank. A self-awareness that Brentford are not one of the most talented sides in the league. They are not the team who are capable of dominating every single team. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's say the goalkeeper has a ball and this team is pressing up. Right, they got a free at the back and they're going for a full press. What Brentford do, they do not like playing through the middle. Brentford do not like playing through the middle at all. Brentford will very rarely play this pass. Into the midfielder. Now the reason for said, a self-awareness from Brentford that they are not capable of, against those bigger sides, against your Man City, against your Liverpool, those players are maybe not capable of getting pressed like this in an intense press and turning out of trouble and playing through the middle. Brentford don't like playing through the middle. Instead, Brentford focus their play out wide, and they try and create overloads out wide. And this is regardless of they're in a back five or a back four. Brentford will always try and make overloads on the width and use the width very, very well to get out of danger. Because what they do when they play a back five system, fullbacks extremely high and extremely wide. They will have someone in there like a Norgard, but then they also pull their centre mids, they pull their eights out wide as well. So it makes these guys have a decision to make. Do you want to go out there and press a man mark like that, or are you just going to leave them? If you leave them, then Brentford can get this ball and just ping it easily, 3-man net. So they try and get them out wide, and what they also do with the 2-4 is they play 2 up front very, very effectively, because usually when they play a 2 up front there is only one central striker, and the other is a Bournemouth, who is a more natural winger who again will drift out into these wide areas. So when Brentford have the ball from a goal kick here and a team is pressing them, they will start off playing out, but they play out in order to try and hit that ball out into the wide areas and bypass the press that way. And then you get the ball into a situation like this, where you're now like this, and suddenly you've got 3, and you got centre back dragged out with space here for this man to run in. You've got 3 players out wide, and you can see here the team is so stretched, the team is so dragged out of position because of Brentford focusing their play out wide, and Brentford are not afraid to go long. They are not afraid to go long. In fact, they go long quite a bit. They go long, when Tony's in the side. Tony holds up the ball and is extremely good at that. He was extremely good at that at Brentford, and would hold up the ball and link up play with an Embuemo. But Brentford also do not just use Tony. When they go long. They identify weak spots in the opposition. So for example, if a right back is the smaller guy, not great in the air, Brentford are a pretty physical side, so they will use Rico Henry, for example. The wing back will go all the way up here, and they'll just ping the ball all the way over there. With his physicality, he'll win that ball, knock it down to the centre mid or the striker who's dragged out there, and suddenly Brentford have broken the press. So Brentford do that really well, and when they get the balls in these wide areas with those overloads, they really do like to be fast, be direct. That's why Brentford have a lot of good, fast, tricky wingers and Buemos, Wiesers, Sharders, because they focus to play out wide, and when they get the ball in those positions, they want them to be running at the defences down wide. And yeah, Brentford really focus most of their play out wide. But then on the complete flip side, when they are in a defensive shape, they really like to congest the middle. They play quite narrow. And are extremely aggressive. Brentford are one of the most aggressive sides when it comes to engaging sides. So, I mean, I put them in a bit of a low block here. They're a little bit higher up, a little bit more of a mid block. But when teams are playing against them and they have the ball, Brentford like to congest the middle. Nothing through the middle, because as you can see here, this is the benefit of using the 3 at the back system. Look how many bodies are in this middle. I mean, yeah, look at how many players are in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They've got 6 players in this middle section, which is why Brentford also rank in terms of blocking shots as one of the highest in the league, because they absolutely pack out the middle, and then they've got their wing backs to deal with all threats out wide. So nothing goes through the middle. Defensively for Brentford, very structured, very solid team defensively, and then everything attacking wise pressing a team. Let's just drop this team slightly back a little bit. Brentford are a very aggressive side in terms of using man marking, and with man marking, the thing is, it's high risk, it's a high reward strategy, because so they'll go like this. If they want to employ a high press, they do it here and there. They do it here and there. They don't go gun ho, but they back themselves in terms of marking them teams just like this, push these guys up like this, and they go like this. They push the wing backs all the way up like this, and suddenly the goalkeeper really doesn't have too many options. Of course, as I said, this is high risk, this is high reward, because let's say, I don't know, the ball gets played into here, this guy loses, Yano loses a battle, this guy gets away suddenly, you know, then they've got a man overload. But when it works, ball gets played into here, Yano wins the ball back, suddenly they're in a 3v2 situation. That's why man marking is so risky, but has a lot of rewards, and Brentford are extremely brave and bold with their man marking. They're not, as I said, they're not gun-ho, they're not stupid with it. They're not maybe this aggressive as I put them on, but when they see a moment to press, for example, ball gets played out here, Hickey will probably start around here. If he sees the opportunity to press, he goes, and then suddenly he marks him, and then they're squeezed and have to go backwards. And then eventually, what they really want from this is the team to go long, because Brentford are physically more dominant than most sides in the league. They are really physical sides, so that's what they try to do. And another aspect of Brentford is set pieces. Brentford are one of the best in the league when it comes to set pieces, which is a big weapon of theirs, but we're not going to go into that in this video. Maybe I can do that in another video if you would like. But that is Brentford really focus out on wide areas. They are not afraid to go long. They use man marking, pressing, and yeah, a really solid, rigid side, which is why they cause so many problems, as you can see, for the big sides. So Brighton have a new manager. Obviously, Fabian Hurtsler is their manager now, and they've got slightly different style. It is kind of similar to De Zerbi in terms of the fundamentals, but in terms of the actual way they do things, it is a bit different. So let me explain how it is a bit different. So Brighton line up in a forward back. They line a 4-2-3-1 formation. Very popular formation. And in terms of the first phase, when they get pressed, something they do which is quite interesting, I find, is they use the width really well. They do not invert fullbacks. They tend to go wide. So if a team is pressing them, they use the keeper very well, something which, again, De Zerbi employed very effectively at Brighton. So they'll form a back three with the keeper like this, from like a goal kick, or if they're trying to break a press. Let's say the team is pressing like so. The fullbacks go very high and very wide. Hinchelwood and Veltman like this, almost hugging the touchline essentially. And what they do is sometimes they'll use the box, but a lot of the time they actually just trust the number 6. They trust the number 6 to go alone in the middle, which is something, particularly in the first phase, you don't necessarily see too often. A lot of the time you'll see teams just go for like a double pivot instead, make it a lot easier. But Brighton, I mean, they do that sometimes when they are struggling, but mainly the 6 goes on his own, allowing this number 8 to push on slightly, and they can go like this. The number 10 drops in like this, so they have options there, and the 2 wingers also hold width up top. Meanwhile, the striker, this is why Danny Welbeck has been chosen. Particularly, Danny Welbeck is very good at occupying these spaces and dropping deep into these zones and linking up play very well. So in this position here now, you can see this is how Brighton are set up. So they're essentially in a 3-1-4 essentially go above Welbeck at points. And now at this point, obviously you've got an advantage here, so you can play the ball here. They're going to press. If he's going to press, he might press, but he has to be occupied with him, so he's going to have to stay there. He is going to have to go and make a decision here. Does he go to the keeper or does he go there? If he goes there, like this, Joao Pedro drops into there, gets that ball. Joao Pedro, again, the number 10, is very, very skillful in these situations. Very, very good to sort of turn out and play to the free man, play to the 8 there, because these guys are occupied like this, right? So that's why they play that lone 6. That's why they play that lone 6, because they can easily play out, because the number 8 drags his player out, and then the number 10 drags the other midfielder out, allowing the number 6 to be free and progress the ball up, play that ball into a Danny Welbeck, and suddenly Brighton are away. So that's what we do in the first phase of build-up play. It's very, very good, very, very effective, stretching the play, and in general, they do the same thing when they attack with the ball. The wingers are extremely high, extremely wide. As I said, width is a big thing with Brighton when they play under Fabian Hurstler, and it's why they have signed players like Yankuba Minter, because they want to utilise the width very, very well. Brighton have some really good wingers, Mitoma, Adingra, Minter, who are very direct, very fast, very good at dribbling, where get them into these 1v1 situations. So they keep them extremely high, extremely wide. Let me drop these guys back a little bit for you to show what I mean. Drop this guy there, push him up like this, push well back up. The strike is also very, very important to how Brighton play in terms of their link up. It is almost a fundamental, which is why, you know, someone like Evan Ferguson maybe hasn't necessarily been involved too much as of yet, because maybe that link up play is yet to be there. Anyways, let's push up, push up, push up, push up. So let's imagine that Brighton have the ball, let's say there. So how do they play when they have the ball? I mean, it's a kind of similar thing where the wingers, as I said, go very high, very wide. They try to really stretch the play, stretch the teams. Joao Pedro in the number 10 role, or whoever is in the number 10 role, will go into the 10 role. One of the 8s will then push up and join them, like so. So those two are sort of supporting the striker, and as I said, the striker is very important because the striker is able to drop deep and drag the centre back in and allow space for number 10 to also go into. So it's a very sort of fluid line. But the number 8 always pushes up and allows the number 6 to dictate play essentially on their own. They're staying there. The fullbacks also go very high, very wide, like so. Veltman a little bit more deeper sometimes and forming a back three, if you like. And the idea of this is, as I said, Milner or whoever is in that number 8 role pushes up here to occupy this midfielder here and allow the winger to get in those 1v1 situations. Same thing for Mitoma on the left wing. Pedro stays in this position, and sometimes he'll drift out there to create a sort of triangle, like so, because the fullback is also very high, very wide, and they'll try and get those overloads and try and get Mitoma and other players out wide in those 1v1 situations, because especially Mitoma is really good at beating his man, getting the byline, and then he can get those cutbacks, get those crosses in for the striker. Interestingly, when they do it in terms of defensively, how they set up, so Brighton tend to they don't use a man marking system, they will use a 4-4-2 system and mark the zone. Brighton they don't actually necessarily, so Pedro will push up like this into the number 10 role, or out of the number 10 role, sorry, and join the striker up front, and it'll go into a 4-4-2. Now this is when they are just sitting back, actually pressing the team, it is slightly different. It's slightly different, and it's quite intriguing actually, because these two do not lead the press. So let's say this team has a goal kick. Let's push these guys back a little bit, like so. Let's say they're like this. Put them like that, like that, like that, and like that. That's how like most teams would set up. So actually, it's not that well back, or whoever's at the striker does not lead the press. The people who lead the press is the number 10, and the right winger. The number 10, the right winger will push up like so. The striker is sort of just behind, and the number 8 also pushes up. So they technically have a sort of box. They have a box press, if you like. It's a box press from Brighton. And then the right back will push up. The right back will also push up alongside there, like so, and then the winger will also be there. So it looks something like this. It looks like something like this. They'll form a back three when they are pressing. So the idea behind this is they play the ball there. Obviously, he's onto him. They are not trying to get. They're trying to essentially, as you can see here, look, the 6 is completely on his own and completely boxed in, right? They want you to play that ball out wide, because then he'll chase you down like so. He'll carry on like this, and suddenly, you know, you're gonna have to force out wide. But then again, he can slot in there, and they can chase you down very, very easily. So yeah, they use the right winger and the attacking mid as the guys to press. Same thing here, you know, drop in a little bit, put the ball there, he presses, go there, he presses, he wants to drop in there, he presses, he wants to drop in there. The DM can press like this, and suddenly this team has absolutely nowhere to go, right? Absolutely nowhere to go. So Brighton are very, very effective under Fabian Hurstler. One of the key characteristics of his side is going out wide, being aggressive in the press, and high and wide fullbacks as well, not inverted, trusting the number 6. Sometimes they'll use 2 pivots, 2 DMs when they build out in the first phase of play, but a lot of the time they'll just trust them on their own to get out. And this number 8 is pretty advanced and always advances up the pitch when they're pressing defensively or when they are attacking. So yeah, Brighton are quite a fun team to watch this season. I'm intrigued to see how this tactic does in the Premier League. Right, let's move on to Chelsea, my club now under Enzo Maresca. Now, Enzo Maresca's system is, I think, very, very fascinating. It is actually very similar. You'll see very similar patterns and tactics employed by Arsenal, which we covered. So let's see if you can spot the similarities between these systems. So when Chelsea have the ball, let's say we're high up the pitch, what we're focused on really is getting the wide players in those 1v1 situations and getting those sort of overloads out wide for those wingers to be fast, be direct, and take on their man, and then get, you know, cutbacks into the box for your number 10s or your striker. So how do we do this? Well, firstly, the right back will invert into midfield. That is a big thing. The number 10 pushes up like this, and with the right back inverting, this allows the number 8, usually Enzo Fernandez, to push on up the pitch and join whoever's in number 10 position, like so. And Cucurella will stay back and form a back 3 system. So it'll be a 3 at the back system. With your double pivot here. I just put Gusto in, but it could be James, Gusto, or Caicedo. And then you have your 2 number 10s again, forming this box midfield for the stability. As you can see, the box there. Then you have your wingers extremely high and wide, and the wingers are really crucial to Maresca's system, I believe, because with this and Jackson as well is also very key, or whoever is the striker. So with the wingers extremely wide, obviously the fullbacks have decisions to make. Do you go out wide and vacate this space here, or do you stay, but then you're allowing them to, in this position, get the ball there and get that ball and run at you, which is what the wingers want. So it's a bit of a predicament for those wingers, for the fullbacks, sorry, when the wingers go so wide. They also make it even harder for them because of a situation like this. Palmer, or one of the number 10 on both sides, will get into these positions here. They'll make the runs into this area here. Now this means that not only does the fullback have to worry about him, fullback also now has to look over his shoulder for him, because if he now goes here, Palmer will make that run in there. Same thing on this side. If he goes there, you'll see Enzo Fernandez making that run into this area here. Now, of course, the midfielder can track that, but the midfielder also gets occupied because Jackson also drops into these positions here, like so. He drops into these positions here, meaning that, okay, if we vacate this, then suddenly like this, we're just leaving a massive gap for him, or massive gap for one of these guys to run into as well. So that's why it causes so many problems for them with these high and wide wingers. And with the wingers in Neto and Madueke, extremely good in those 1v1 situations, extremely fast, extremely good dribblers. I do think this is one of the reasons why we've signed Pedro Neto, because we want, under Maresca, the players to get in these 1v1 situations, have faith that they can take on their man, beat their man, and get past them, either go down the byline and get the cut back to a Jackson, to an Enzo, to a Palmer, because we've got 3 players there who will be in the box on the end of those cutbacks. Or, as we saw, for example, against Wolves, where Neto would be in this position here, run sort of inside a little bit and then cut it back, or take a shot himself. And yeah, that Wolves game is actually a perfect example, because he beats his man. I'm pretty sure he goes around the outside and cuts it back to the number 10, who is Joao Felix at that point, who shoots and scores. So that's really the patterns of play which Chelsea want to create. They want to create those wide areas for wingers are crucial to the system, and I believe that is why Cole Palmer is playing now in the number 10 role, because Cole Palmer, while he can do that, he is somebody who maybe isn't as dynamic as a Madueke or a Neto in terms of beating their man in those 1v1 situations. And as I said, the striker is also very key, because the striker will link up this play very nicely, because they also, with the 2 number 10s here, Chelsea have the ability not only to go wide, but if they stretch the play here with Palmer, dragging him out there, Chelsea have the ability to go through the middle into a Jackson, who is very good at those sort of light little touches, little flicks, little one-touch passing, and Palmer as well is very good at escaping his man. So if it is like this, goes in, the ball gets played into Jackson like this, Palmer's very good at breaking into these areas, doing 1-2s, and also again Palmer is somebody who, in a position like this, is capable of beating his man, getting a shot across on goal, like so. So yeah, the number 10s, the strikers, link up very nicely, form a sort of triangle. Oh gosh, that was horrible. Form a sort of triangle like that. That's still not a good triangle, but yeah, hopefully you get the point. Now, what actually happens as well some points with Maresca, so if we're a little bit back as well, let's say a team is starting to press us slightly, let's drop off a little bit, like so. We will be in this shape, but one of the key weapons something he loves to use, probably a bit more than someone like an Arteta, which is one of the differences between his system, is the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is extremely important in Maresca's system. Oops. So goalkeeper does get involved in play, and a lot of the times you actually see Sanchez or the goalkeeper joining in, which means that he'll form part of the back three. Colwell and Fofana will push on sort of like this, and essentially one of the centre backs will be a right back, like so. Cucurella will go into a left back role, so it'll be a back four system. Gusto and Caicedo will be inverted. The number 10 and the number 8 will stretch the play like so, meaning that if this team wants to press, wingers a little bit more like this, like that, like that, and like that. Okay, so if this team wants to press you, obviously here we've got a numerical advantage because obviously they can go man for man. Sure thing, they can try and press you man for man. Then you are leaving 1 and 2 players free, right? So realistically, they sort of just sit off like so. They'll sit off like this, and it'll make it fairly easy to get into this position. And in this position, because the two number 10s are playing quite wide, they drift off. These guys again have a decision to make. Are you going to hold your ground and stay in the middle here? Because once this ball gets played, you need to go engage them. But if you do that, then you're allowing them like this. The ball gets played in there. If you start engaging, this guy's free, plays that ball very nicely, and suddenly Chelsea get in because he drops in, and boom, you're in, right? Or you go and hold him, you go and mark him, you go mark them. But if this ball gets played into here, then suddenly look at the space here for them to go through. He can drop in, play that ball into there, he can push on, and it's easily way to get through. So that's why Sanchez getting involved in play, and the goalkeeper getting involved in play is so crucial to Maresca's system, because it gives you that numerical advantage. And he also, a lot of points actually from the goalkeeper just go straight into a Jackson, because as I said, his hold up play, his link up play is very nice, and in this position a Palmer will break in here, they'll get a 1-2 or something going, or Jackson will play the ball into Palmer, and then what you'll see is ideally a Madueke makes a run like this. So this will be the sequence. I'll show you. This is a play which Chelsea have done a couple times. So ball gets played through the middle into Jackson. They go like this, they dragged out like this. Palmer moves in here, little flick from Jackson into Palmer. Madueke makes this run, ball gets played there, and Madueke's in. This is what worked extremely effectively against Wolves, because they tried to employ a press similar like this, but Chelsea did something like this, or it was go into a Caicedo, go into a Jackson, and they completely bypassed the midfield. That's why against Wolves midfield looks non-existent, because there was no one in this area here. You can see here there's 1, 2, 3 Chelsea players and 0 Wolves players, or defending players. But that was what was happening against Wolves, because they were following their man. They were following their man here and there instead of holding their position. And because of course these guys just cause so many problems. If they do hold position, then boom, they can play the ball out there, and suddenly in this position here, you got a 2v1 situation. Your Palmer and Madueke up against this fullback, and this poor fullback is struggling. So yeah, that's really Chelsea's system. Very focused on the wide areas, focus on getting them in 1v1 situations. The goalkeeper joining up in the build-up play is a key feature of Chelsea's system as well. Helps them get an advantage numerically, and the fullback inverts to provide a solid base and allows one of the midfielders to push on and go into a number 10 role. The number 10s go extremely wide to stretch the play and give a decision to these guys to make, and hopefully drag them out of position where the striker can drop into that role and form nice triangle and patterns of play. Francois Maresca's system at Chelsea explained. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about Crystal Palace. Now Crystal Palace under Oliver Glasner, we obviously saw completely turn things around last season for them when he came in, implementing his style of play. But the thing is, I think one of the main reasons why he was able to see such a huge overhaul in terms of results is because his style of play is not incredibly complicated, at least in terms of what you'll see in this video. Other tactics have been far more complicated and complex than his. His is simple to learn and get your head around, but it's extremely effective and most importantly gets the best out of key individuals in the side. So Palace line up in a 3-4-2-1 formation under Oliver Glasner. They use wing backs very, very effectively. Now, the reason they use this formation is because defensively it goes into a little bit more of a 5, so Munoz and Mitchell will drop back, meaning it is a 5 at the back. But the advantages of playing a 5 at the back when you defend is, let's say, they have the ball here, you can be super aggressive with how you defend. You know, Lerma can attack this ball because it's fine if the ball gets played into there. As you'll see with Crystal Palace, their centre-backs love to jump, and will jump at that ball. The reason they're allowed to do this is because it's fine. They have 2 other centre-backs, they can just shift across, and boom, slide into a back 4. Nice and easy. So that's why they go for a 5 at the back, and is why Crystal Palace are very aggressive in terms of how they defend. These centre-backs love to jump forward, and Lerma and Watson in particular, or Hughes, plays in this position as well, but they provide a double pivot, a nice solid base in front. Also, another thing in terms of how they defend, it actually helps them going forward. Counter-attacks is something which Crystal Palace under Glasner have been very good at, and the reason for that is because these 2 number 10s, actually the entire front 3, stay extremely narrow and close together. They'll defend kind of like that, and these guys will also be extremely narrow, so they're going to really congest the middle of a park. The middle of a park is absolutely congested. I mean, look at that. You got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in that middle third. So with Palace, when you play them, it's very hard to go through the middle of them. But also, when teams do try and go through the middle, they get dispossessed in these areas, and Palace, as I said, counter-attacks. Because these 3 are very, very close together, they play that ball very quickly, and suddenly these guys can link up and counter-attack, and that's why Palace, you'll see a lot of the time, will create good opportunities from those counter-attacking chances, because everyone is so close and in the middle of a park, and that is an intentional thing by Glasner to help them going forward. Now when they attack, it does not become a 5 at the back. In fact, the wing backs are so crucial under this system because they have such responsibility. They have to sit back in a 5 at the back when they defend, but then when they attack, they actually basically become the wingers of the side. They absolutely bomb forward down this flank and down this flank. They will attack and attack and attack. They'll be very, very high up the pitch like this, as I said, pretty much occupying spaces that wingers will put. Strike will be there. The 2 10s as well. The 2 10s will be a nuisance, be a very, very big nuisance, which we'll come on to. Now the 3 at the back stays a 3 at the back. Obviously, with a 3 at the back system, one of the centre backs, you know, if they have a bit of space and time the ball out wide, they can roam free. They do have that license to do so, but most of the time it's not necessary because what Palace do effectively is get those key players into the best opportunities. I'm specifically talking about the 2 number 10s. Everything goes through these 2. Now when they have Michael Elise here in particular, I think that was a pretty big reason why Glasner opted for this system because obviously Elise and Eze are your best players, so naturally you want them in the best positions possible. And particularly Eze, but also on the right hand side, which is now Kamada, gets big free roam in the pitch for them, and they'll often pick up these areas here, go deep, but also they rotate heavily with the fullbacks or the wingers, I guess. So you'll see again more so Elise, because Elise was naturally a right winger, would actually occupy these areas some points, allowing us to run inside and infield. And then Elise could get into these 1v1 situations where you'd be deadly. They still do at points, but mainly Eze now does it. And as I said, Eze also has the license to drop in. And this player here, 8 will push on, because Eze is so good at dribbling, so good at creating. He gets a pretty much free roam at the attack, and Mateta as well. Mateta's hold-up play is really good, so he'll pin a defender like this, and Eze will be in this position and go straight in for a 1-2 off Mateta, who can easily bounce it, because as I said, his hold-up play is brilliant. And then yeah, Palace are in like that at points, but their wing-backs and a lot of their goals are scored through cutbacks, through getting out wide and then crossing it in, because as I said, the wing-backs play super wide, super high up the pitch. They then get their number 10s to go out wide with them, so they get a 2v1 situation. They link up nicely, beat their man, and then get the cross in the box, which is why Mateta has done so well. He has done so well under Glasner, because Mateta, his job is, as I mentioned, to hold up the ball, link up play a little bit, but predominantly it's get in the box and get ready for these crosses and these cutbacks, which are going to put into the box for you. And I think that's also why Eddie Nketiah will probably thrive in this system, because he likes to be in that sort of in the box, doesn't get involved too much in the play, and then just gets on the end of chances. Also with Mateta, the Palace use him as a long ball outlet, because he is very good at holding up the ball, and in the air he wins a lot of his duels. When they had Yogi Manderson in particular, he was a fantastic long ball expert, but I'm guessing they'll still do it. They'll go straight into Mateta at points when the team was pressing them. Mateta would flick it on, and then the two number 10s, as I said, when they're defending, very narrow, so they'll be right next to him to get those second balls. The wingers will be wide as well, and then they'll just flick on from Mateta down to Eze into Mitchell, bang, they're in, back to Mateta, cut back, goal. That's a pretty standard play from Palace, but yeah, that's pretty much it for Palace. As I said, it's not like overly complicated. The key takeaways really are the wing backs are crucial. When they attack, they play as wingers, and when they defend, they go into back 5 system. With the back 5, their centre backs are very aggressive and jump out a lot to break up play. The 2 number 10s are crucial in terms of they get a lot of freedom in this system to roam out wide and central, and the striker is used to link up play, hold up the ball, and get it on the end of crosses. Simple but very effective stuff from Crystal Palace. Okay, so let's talk Everton now. Now Everton, obviously under Sean Dyche, I feel like people have a perception on them that they just play hoofball, the bus football, stuff like that, and that's not necessarily true. There is a lot of tactical nuance to Everton's style of play, which I'm gonna explain now. So Everton play in a 4-4-1-1 formation predominantly. Now, what they do, Everton, is the reason they play this formation is because it offers them so much flexibility in terms of on the ball and off the ball. Now I'm going to show you what I mean. So off the ball, when Everton play, they use 2 systems. Decore can join up with Dominic Calvert-Lewin up top, and they play into a 4-4-2 formation, which is something a lot of teams do, of course, because it blocks that middle of a park, or if they're playing particularly against a bigger side or have a lead to hold on to, because Decore is naturally a centre mid, Decore can drop in there and they go into a 4-5 force a team out wide. If you're out wide, most likely you're going to cross the ball in, and they believe their centre backs can easily deal with that. Now, again, people have a perception about, oh, they just park the bus. Actually, Everton are actually one of the best when it comes to pressing from the front. They employ a sort of mid-block system. They go into a mid-block, and the front two usually presses Decore and Calvert-Lewin. So what they'll do, they'll press up, and they'll press this man, and this man. Let's say team plays like that. What they'll do is push him up and go like this. Yeah, so let's say he has a ball. Decore and Calvert-Lewin will block the pass. They will block the pass to the pivot, forcing him to either one of these. And then usually what happens, let's see if he goes there. Let's actually go like this. So he goes there. What happens a lot is one of the eights, typically James Garner, will then go and push forward alongside them and make it a three-man press. And in this position, this player is suddenly now blocked. They have to go backwards, and then from here, Decore will chase, and then eventually the aim is really, again, what I link back with going to wide. It's about pushing them to make them go long. That's the aim with Everton's press, really. Of course, it's to win the ball back as well. They do that a lot of the times in these situations, but it's mainly to win that ball and push them to go long, because as I said, Brentford, Tarkowski, they're a very strong physical side. Everton back themselves to win those physical duels, so they really want to force teams back with the way they set up defensively. Now, in terms of going forward, as I said, this formation is really flexible. So it's initially like this, and it can stay like this, but predominantly with the ball, what actually happens, this man here, Decore, or whoever plays in this role, has so much freedom, and it's so crucial to the system, because as I said, they're crucial in terms of stepping up the press or sitting back to defend. But then when they have the ball, they basically play as another striker, a little bit deeper, but basically as another striker along Calvert-Lewin. And Everton are bold. Everton go all the way up. Let me get this team back into shape real quick, and I'll show you why this is a really effective style of play from them. So let's say the team is set up like this. Everton have the ball. So they'll go for a 4-2-4 when they attack, which is pretty attacking. Like, that is very attacking. A 4-2-4 formation. And the reason we do this is because when they come up against a back four, as you can see, with a 4-2-4 formation, he's up against a man, he's up against a man, he's up against a man, he's up against a man. So that means every single back four member is occupied with a player. And as I said, Everton are a very physical side, and this front four, I mean, maybe not Harrison, but Calvert-Lewin, Decore, McNeil are very physical guys. So what Everton do, because they're all occupied, they'll play the long ball out wide to a McNeil, who can win that aerial battle, knock it down here, and suddenly you bypass the press, and all you need really is your player to beat your individual, and then you're in. And they can do it to any of these. They can do it to Calvert-Lewin, they can do it to Decore as well. So that's why they go for a 4-2-4 formation. It's quite bold, it's quite out there, and doing this formation basically forces the opposition to go man for man. And then with these guys are sort of left like, okay, what do we do now? Do we help or do we go? They're a little bit confused, right? But predominantly Everton, they're geared towards going long, yes, but they will also play it on the floor. But the reason they go long is because they have so many good players up top in terms of physicality, and they can bully teams. They do very well on set pieces as well, kind of similar style to Brentford, Everton. And yeah, they're very effective at this because, as I said, it's very fluid formation. So it's a 4-2-4. When they attack, they go man for man. When they defend, it's a 4-5-1 or a 4-4-2, and they'll press as a 2, and eventually when they get the chance, they'll press as a 3 and form like a 4-3-3. system and formation, but it's really geared towards forcing teams to go long and making it a sort of long ballish game, because that is where Everton thrive. Everton know they can make it into a game like that. 9 times out of 10, Everton will win that because they have superior aerial dominance. So it's not quite part the bus and hoof it. There is a little bit of sell up towards it, but yes, it is a little bit of long ball at Everton. Okay, now we have Fulham, and with Fulham, I'm actually a big admirer and respect the way they play, because there's something sort of old school about them. Now, I don't mean like 1980s style, I mean like 5-6 years ago, how all those teams played. That's how Fulham play now, but they're showing that they can do it in the modern day and it still works just as good. And it's really, really simple, but very, very effective for Fulham. So they set up in a 4-2-3-1 formation, and their main emphasis is about out wide, out wide, out wide, out wide. That's where most of Fulham's play comes from. They want to generate chances through the wide areas. Now, how do they do this? It's pretty simple stuff. As I said, if I explain this, you'll probably recognise some of these patterns because this is what teams used to do like 5-6 years ago. But as I said, it still works today. So what they do when Fulham have the ball, striker goes into the striker role. The wingers will invert, so they essentially kind of become 2 10s, if you like. They'll occupy these spaces here, allowing vast amount of space for their fullbacks to bomb into these areas here, and fullbacks go high and wide on the overlap. What then happens is they create their overloads out wide because Andres Pereira, or whoever is in the number 10 role, will drift out wide into these areas here. They then get one of their DMs, Harrison Reed usually, to drift out into the same area on the other side, just like this, and then whoever's here will just cover, just like that. So what actually happens, as you can see, is they have 1, 2, 3, and they form these little triangles out wide and overload teams because they can pop this ball around nicely to work the fashion to get in behind out wide. Same thing here as well. 1, 2, 3. The triangles out wide is key to how they do it, and the aim, as I said, is to get into those wide areas like this. It's usually the fullback in these areas to cross the ball in for the big man up top, who is now Muniz, but it used to be Mitrovic. They've just adapted it with Muniz, who is good in the air and can win those headers, and that's why, as you'll see, Anthony Robinson gets a lot of plaudits because he goes forward a lot on the overlap, gets a lot of crosses in for Muniz, who, again, that's why Muniz has done very well at Fulham, because he's good in the air and wins those aerial duels and gets the on the end of those sorts of things. So it's pretty simple stuff, as I said. This is really what a lot of clubs used to do, those overlapping fullbacks on the inverted wingers. And they also, when they are being pressed, they use a pretty simple style to get out of it. They do tend to play out from the back as well, particularly against the smaller sides. But when they're playing a bigger side, they tend to get the 2 wingers in and around the striker, and they'll go into the big man because, as I said, he's physical, he can hold it up, flick it on and they're in, and then these guys bomb forward and they get into their shape. And I think that's a big reason why they've signed Joachim Andersen, because Joachim Andersen, as I mentioned in the Palace one, he did that very effectively. He's really, really good at those long balls, so expect Joachim Andersen to be playing tons of long balls to Muniz, or even, if a fullback gets dragged out into these positions, making a run there, and Joachim Andersen makes a diag ball there. I think that's something which is going to happen a lot this season for Fulham. So yeah, they're not afraid to go long. They create overloads out wide. It's pretty simple stuff. Now defensively, they are set up a little bit different. I should also mention that is exactly why, when you think of Fulham's wingers, I mean, besides Adama Traore, all of their wingers really simple stuff. Go into a 4-4-2 formation. Andres Pereira, or whoever the number 10 is, will push forward. And Fulham, to be fair to them, especially against the smaller sides, will employ a high press. They will go high and they will engage. When these teams have the ball, they will press very, very high, and their aim is really to force teams out wide. So what they do is they love for them to squeeze the pitch. So say the ball gets played out here, they will squeeze in. So they'll block the ball there, they'll block the ball there, they'll block the ball there and there. These guys all shuffle over as well, just like this, just like this. Oops, move him over there, take that out. Everyone shuffles like this. So, as you can see, I mean, this guy, he has basically no options because everyone is squeezed. You'll see Fulham do this a lot. Now, of course, this leaves big space here, and against the bigger sides, Fulham tend to drop off a little bit because they have been caught out quite a bit against those bigger sides. Because a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold in this position can just easily ping that ball over there and in. However, this is why they tend to do this versus the smaller sides, because the smaller sides, the average Premier League fullback is not really capable of pinging the perfect ball diagonally across like that under pressure whilst he's getting pressed. So they'll do it on the other side as well. And yeah, it's very, very effective press, but against those bigger sides, they tend to sit off a little bit. And this is kind of why Fulham, I mean, here and there they do, but they tend to never really beat those bigger sides. They do really well though versus the smaller sides because of this pressing style. They can impose on those smaller teams and squeeze the pitch, and then when they have the ball as well, they can be really, really good. And yeah, they have some nice technical players as well. So that's really Fulham. As I said, it's kind of old school in terms of these triangles out wide, forming these triangles out wide to attack, getting those overlapping fullbacks, getting crosses into the box for the big man. But it's super, super effective, and yeah, I really admire them because they could easily try to do that, inverted fullback stuff, but they try and just keep it simple, keep it basic, and it is really, really good and effective stuff. So we are now going to go on to our final team here, which is Ipswich. Now Ipswich, of course, have progressed through the leagues under McKenna very, very nicely, and they've done so in a fairly similar way. Their style of play is, I mean, this is one where it is sort of changing as they go into Prem, and one of those where maybe I'm going to have to update this, but predominantly I believe they are going to, from early signs, play the same way as they do in the Prem to the Championship, maybe slightly altered, but mostly it's going to be the same. So I'm going to run you through the sort of general style of play in the Championship, and I'll explain why I actually think it's going to stay the same in the Premier League, because Ipswich are a really interesting one. They're not necessarily a team who just pass it out from the back all the time. They're equally not a team who do a long ball all the time. They're very, very mixed side, but they are very, very bold in possession. So their key areas, so they line up in a 4-2-3-1 on paper, but in possession it's actually extremely, extremely different. So predominantly, as you can see, Amari Hutchinson is starting on the left, Colin Chapin as the number 10. Amari Hutchinson isn't really a traditional winger, he is a bit more of a number 10. So what happens when they have the ball is he goes into the number 10 role alongside Chaplin, when they play just behind the striker, like this. Now this, of course, leaves space out wide, and this is where Leif Davis, their left back, occupies these spaces here. This explains why Leif Davis, in terms of attacking returns, are some of the best, particularly last season in the Championship, in terms of goals and assists in the whole of England. In terms of from left back, he got an insane amount of goals and assists last season because he basically operates as the winger in this system for Ipswich. Wes Burns, on the other hand, he is a bit more of a traditional winger, so he will hold the width out there. something they do really, really interestingly, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Liverpool back in the day under Jurgen Klopp, where their fullbacks would bomb forward, particularly it would happen with Trent Alexander-Arnold. The fullback would bomb forward, and what would happen is one of the midfielders it'll be Jordan Henderson, would sort of cover that area like that, and that's what Luongo does. He sort of covers that area. He doesn't exactly slot into left back, but he just slightly shifts over a little bit there. So he's sort of covering this zone here, but also is capable of going into the midfield there. And Luongo is extremely, extremely good at long balls. Long balls, that sort of, he's almost used as, I guess you can say, a quarterback from this position. Usually, he gets in this space a bit of time, a bit of space on the ball, because this winger is going to be occupied and track Leif Davis's run. This guy's gonna try and track Amari Hutchinson, so then he's going to really sort of be in a bit of a limbo here, and Luongo is going to have time and space on the ball. So Luongo actually is really good at making those long balls into the lap of a striker, or Leif Davis makes a run in behind Luongo, will make that ball and get it behind him. So that's Luongo's role there. Duanzebe, Greaves and Wolfton, obviously Duanzebe is a bit more a centre back, so sometimes they're a little bit more cautious, they go into a back three, but actually a lot of the time Duanzebe pushes up, so that Morsey comes a little bit more central here, so they're actually a little bit of like a 2-3-4-1, but the goalkeeper is required to join up in the attack. The goalkeeper, you'll see, plays extremely high and gets involved in the link-up play, essentially forming a back three system. So it'll be a 3-3-4-1 formation when they have the ball at points. And you've seen this in the Premier League already. It's high risk, it's high reward, as you saw against Manchester City, for example. Muric got caught out because he was all the way out here, loses the ball when he gets pressed, and then City score. But what it does give you is that numerical advantage, because now the opposition has a choice to make. So if they're defending like this, suddenly they have a choice to make in terms of, are we going to now press the centre back, press the ball? If we press the ball, someone is free, boom, boom, and now suddenly you can play it to Luongo, who plays those long balls in behind there, right? Or if you just sit off, and go into a shape like this, then you're allowing them to have three players on the ball, and they're capable on the ball to pick out those passes and really pick off the sides. So Ipswich are quite brave, quite bold on the ball. They also primarily focus on getting that ball out wide, getting the ball out on the left hand side to a Leif Davis, to a Wes Burns on the right, and they score a lot of cutbacks, because obviously, for example, if you're Leif Davis bombing forward, as we said in this play, so Muric has the ball, the striker presses, play it to Greaves, play it to Luongo, Leif Davis makes a run, Luongo long ball, Leif Davis in behind. You'll see Leif Davis in this position a lot, and because you've got the striker who plays as a traditional striker, he'll be in the box, he's very, very physical, but you've also got these two second strikers, these number 10s in there, so you've got three players, and you've got Wes Burns arriving at the box. They fill that box very well, and as I said, that's why Ipswich score a lot of cutbacks, which you'll see in the Premier League quite a bit. So yeah, they're very, very sort of fast, very direct with their football. Also with their striker, it was George Hurst in the Championship, it is now Liam Delap, but both of them are very physical strikers. If they need to, from Luongo, they'll go straight into a Delap and hold up the ball. Similar style as well to Brentford, where if they get impressed and they identify that maybe the fullback is weak in the air, Delap isn't just going to stick there. Delap will peel off to the fullback and they'll play that long ball over to Delap. They're very, very flexible. Flexible Ipswich is one of the words I would use to describe them, and that's one of the reasons why I think that they're going to continue using this method in the Premier League, because they are, you know, it's a method where they're not relying on solely playing out from back all the time. They're not relying on always going long. They're not relying on always going short. They can do a little bit of both. Now defensively, they'll set up usually in a 4-4-2 system. Chaplin joins Delap up top, and they'll be in a mid block. In the Championship, they were very good, similar to Bournemouth in terms of those high turnovers in these mid block area. Very, very good at engaging with teams. They also sometimes even drop into a 5 at the back, which we've seen a couple times in the Prem, because as I said, Duan Zabi is a more natural centre back, so Burns could go wing back, Leif Davis can go wing back just like this. They really, really want to, you know, go like this, spread along. If they go in a bit more defensive, they can slot into this very, very easily, very, very comfortably, and they can also defend in this. So that's why I think Ipswich are, you know, tactically maybe not necessarily the worst fit for the Premier League. I don't think they're necessarily going to struggle in the Prem tactically, more so the personnel potentially to execute the game plan. However, to summarise, Ipswich focus most of their play down, out, wide. They focus on getting the ball out wide and getting those cutbacks into the box. They're not afraid to go long to their big man up front. They use Luongu over left centre mid as a sort of quarterback role, where they're sort of spraying long balls from deep, and they can also play short, intricate passes as well. And they play two number 10s who get on the end of those cutbacks. They can play a 4 at the back, they can play a 5 at the back, and they're very, very good at pressing when they need to. So that is Ipswich Town's tactics. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed part 1. If you want to see me make the part 2, then please do leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see